Okay, hello. So, security threats, privacy threats, disinformation, and cyberbullying are some of the issues we are facing nowadays. And when trying to approach these issues, we often like to believe that we can actually fix everything with technology, which would be great, but we often tend to forget that people and technology interact. And actually, when this happens, things quickly become a lot more complicated and unpredictable. To underline what I mean, let's take a look at two examples that concern security. So, if you heavily tighten the password security policy in an attempt to achieve more security, you will likely fail, because these measures usually lower usability, and you could end up enticing people to engage in behaviors that actually compromise security again, such as reusing passwords or writing them down. So security at the expense of usability always comes at the expense of security. Another example is that if you look at cyber incidents, many of them actually are rooted in some sort of human error. And I'm not just talking about the employees that click on malicious links. I'm also talking about aspects such as software developers that have failed at the difficult task of securing systems that are growing in complexity daily. So the screenshotting software Lightshot gives us a great example to underline this very complex dynamic between people and technology, and also how human behavior can have implications on security and privacy. So if you create screenshots with Lightshot, you get some sort of a shareable URL. And the URL generation algorithm is quite crappy, so it's very easy to look at other people's screenshots. And instead of the developers of Lightshot trying to fix this on a software level, they decided to write in their terms of service that you shouldn't photograph like sensitive stuff. But people don't read terms of service, so they put up all these things I have found on Lightshot without actually being aware of it, which, as you can see, is quite of a problem. So this complex dynamic between people and technology can also be observed with other issues such as disinformation. But today, our primary focus will be security and privacy. Overall, we can conclude that dealing with cyber challenges is as much about people as it is about technology. Yet, very often, the human factor is kind of ignored or forgotten. Since high school, I have been engaged in creating fun learning opportunities as well as cyber awareness tools to motivate and better equip people to deal with human-relevant cyber risks. And with this talk, I kind of want to inspire you to also find creative and innovative solutions to tackle, or at least better deal with, human-relevant cyber risks or challenges, especially in regards to security and privacy. So we will first look at a few examples that are very different from each other to show you how layer 8 innovation/creation can be approached. And then I would like to talk about some of the challenges and opportunities that are associated with such projects from personal experience. So innovating and creating on layer 8 can actually happen in many ways. On the one end of the spectrum, you try to find like sustainable solutions and new approaches to challenges. Maybe you are able to use technology to take a lot of responsibility away from people as possible. That could be you kind of develop some sort of software that is able to very reliably detect social engineering attacks, such as phishing, and basically it doesn't need people to check if it's actually phishing or not anymore. But this is actually very difficult. Another approach to this elimination is integration, and it would be something like making things more human-centric, like finding promising and usable alternatives to passwords, which are actually pretty much a pain in the ass. On the quite opposite end of the spectrum, you don't really solve problems by means of technology, maybe because you can't, or because these are just problems that will stuck around for a longer period of time, and we have to deal with them. So this could be developing stuff that assists people to deal with these challenges, or also creating security awareness tools that actually empower people to engage in more secure behaviors. So to give you a bit of some examples, let's take a look at the following ones. So a recurring subject of debate is that gathering and analyzing user data has become a very profitable way of making business. However, it is associated with concerns regarding privacy and digital ethics. Obviously, from a business standpoint, you want to get as much data from users as possible. So it does not come as a surprise that privacy policies are usually written and presented in a way that don't really appeal to users, so they don't read them and just actually click accept. And also we can see that adjusting privacy settings to your liking actually is involved with taking many extra steps. So people also skip that. But is this really ethical, and is it future-proof? Because when people are offered transparency and given an actual choice, they seem to be a lot more apprehensive towards sharing data with third parties, and also a lot more protective of their privacy. Another thing we can see with these current ways of using data is that new regulations like the GDPR start to kind of negatively impact user experience. So they leave us with constant pop-ups that kind of train people to blindly click on things, which is a very bad security behavior because they accidentally download some sort of virus, maybe. Prefina is a startup that has thought about how we can deliver value from personal data in different and more privacy-conscious ways. They provide a framework that allows you to build applications that deliver value from personal data without compromising privacy. And their approach is to put data on the user side by giving each user their own private and personal data cloud. And if you build applications with Prefina, they run locally with the data stored in the cloud. While I have some things with Prefina, I think they need to be improved, and I have questions regarding some aspects of their concept that I will not explain now because we don't have the time. I think Prefina goes to show that there are alternatives to how we do it today, and maybe it is worth finding other ways how we can generate value with data and also make money with it that are more ethical. Another example of integration is creating usable security solutions for both users and developers. Developers, because creating secure software is actually gaining in complexity, and you also want to support these people. So if you're interested in usable security, I highly recommend this talk by Marco Gutfleisch at the latest Switch Security Awareness Day, but I won't go into detail now because I think he will give you a much better explanation. Now, moving up the spectrum, an alternative to the integration and elimination approach is to just assist people to deal more effectively with existing challenges. And one example you might have seen on YouTube, because they're really pushing the ads lately, is the Jumbo Privacy app. And it's a security and privacy assistant that actually helps you or users to adjust privacy settings or delete old social media posts or check for data breaches, things like that, much more conveniently. And I think we can all agree maybe this isn't super innovative because they don't do something that does not exist already. I mean, there are tools to check for data breaches and similar. But actually, they offer a very easy-to-use, attractive-looking, and a tool that combines multiple functionalities. And what it does is it appeals to a new and broader spectrum of people that previously didn't care. And that way, it kind of contributes to more digital self-determination. And this is something I personally really appreciate. Now we have reached the other end of the spectrum, which is education. So some cyber threats, for example, cannot or not fully be solved by means of technology. Let's take voice phishing as an example. It is a form of phishing whereby attackers make phone calls impersonating some reputable entity to get individuals to reveal sensitive information, transfer money, or similar. So often, on top of that, attackers utilize things like caller ID spoofing to fake phone numbers. They use deepfake voices and background noises to really master the impersonation, making it super difficult to detect when it's happening. Let's take a look how this can look like.
I'll call your cell phone provider and see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm going to spoof from your number, so it's going to look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for uses information, and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying, and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30 seconds,
At gmail.com?
Jessica gets access to my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message? Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account.
Jess uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry, so there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my password.
Thank you so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her fed after this. All right, thank you.
Well, as you can see, for this kind of attack, it is actually quite important to educate people because you can't really give them some sort of software that helps them. And it is actually very hard to detect because we are willing to help others in need, or if maybe our CEO from our company is calling us, we don't want to be rude and say, hey, I need to hang up the call and call you later to check if you're really the CEO. So it is really complicated. And something we can see is that making people aware of these things and transfer knowledge is usually insufficient to get people to actually change their behavior and take on an extra effort for more security. So people must not only know the risks, but they need to really understand why it applies to them. And they need to feel intrinsically motivated to change and also confident they actually can do something about it. So it is very important to provide learning opportunities that make risks that make risks tangible and actionable and motivate people intrinsically and help them acquire hands-on skills to deal with these things. So I personally created a modular workshop product called Be Aware Cyber, and it empowers people to deal with common cyber threats in their daily life through gamified and hands-on methods. I don't know if you have seen the escape rooms from Switch. That's also an example from a gamified cyber awareness approach. So Some of our modules, such as the module Wish Me If You Can, which is the wishing module, bases on a concept called role reversal cyber awareness training. So we actually let people assume the role of the bad guys instead of forcing them like in this demotivating and defensive role of the victim. So the benefit of this approach is that people feel less scared and intimidated. On top of that, it's fun. And they get to see and touch the risks themselves and also experience the effect of preventive measures live. And they also gain an understanding on how attackers operate. So another thing is that we actually use this role reversal thing as an incentive, because most people share this common childhood dream of one day wanting to feel like one of those hackers we see in movies. So we actually allow them to kind of outlive this dream, and it's actually quite fun. And that's also the reason why we have a lot of decor that may look useless, but it actually contributes to the learning experience. So let me quickly run you through to the module Wish Me If You Can. So initially, the participants acquire basic knowledge on the attack, preventive measures they can take, warning signs, and things like that. So they later need to use that acquired knowledge to solve the gamified module challenge. And in this phase, they also get to use SpyPy, which is the thing that actually made me start all of this in high school, which is this thing up there. And it is a hacking box that allows you to try certain things out. And it allows them to spoof their phone number. And the purpose of this demo is to show that attackers can take any phone number they want and use this to call their victims, so they can act like they're you. And we can also show them that you can find out if the phone number is spoofed by actually calling the number back, because if you call the number back, the call will reach the person that actually is the owner of this number. So after that, they enter the challenge, in which they apply this acquired knowledge in a reversed way. On the desk of Britney Spearfishing, a hacker who was unable to complete a phishing call on a firm or a company for a client, they have to actually jump in as a group and plan and execute a phishing attack for Britney. And first, they have to gather information. And for that, we provide websites, social media profiles, and also information that is like on the pin board there. And using that information, they create a pretext, which is something used in social engineering. So previously, we have seen the pretext was she was his wife, and she's stressed, and she instantly needs something. It can also be the tech support that has a problem and needs information from you. So then they use this pretext and this funny-looking phone, which is actually a 4G upcycled bunker phone, to call their victim. And it's kind of a CTF-style thing. So they get their the client from Britney that pays with candy, and the more information they get, the more candy they get at the end. So yeah. So at the end, they switch out of the role of the attacker, and they discuss their observations, how this attack could have been prevented, what mistakes the victim made, and what implications the experience had for their private life or professional life. Now, we have seen several examples that show very different approaches to layer 8 innovation. And I'd like to address some of the challenges and benefits of such projects. But as I'm mainly involved in cyber awareness and we don't have time to discuss all of it, I will mainly focus on things I experience personally with projects or that apply to projects in the field of cyber awareness. So one thing is the overall complexity of what you're doing, because your actual goal with cyber awareness is to induce behavioral change. But this is very difficult, and we have previously addressed that knowledge and awareness is maybe a prerequisite, but not like sufficient to induce behavioral change. So we all know this for example, from passwords. We know it's bad to use crappy passwords, but they're so unusable that if we don't have a password manager, we just still use them. Anyway, another aspect that could influence the success and or not success of your engagement is like company's culture, or if people feel appreciated, or if they feel scared. These are all things that influence the success of what you do. And if you create a cyber awareness product, you have to kind of get an understanding of things that boost or negatively impact the effectiveness of your product. And if you want to get a deeper understanding of many of the challenges and factors, take a look at this paper. It's very interesting and gives you a great idea of many of these factors. And I also recommend that you test your prototypes and ideas early on in a real-life scenario, because that way you will easily find out if it works or does not. Another issue you will be facing is that you have very difficult target groups, because first you have the customers, the ones that will be buying your product. And second of all, you have the people you want to empower, which are maybe employees or students. And for both of these, security awareness measures are usually an inconvenience, so they won't welcome you with open arms. Many organizations, for example, have very little budget for awareness measures, and often they care more about having done something or being able to prove that they have done something in case of a security audit, instead of actually doing things that work and make change happening. And so it can be that you have a great product that works well, that has a great impact on people, but people or your customers will still be tempted to choose the cheaper option that doesn't work. So you have to communicate your product well, otherwise you won't find people that want it. The second target group is also not easy, because people usually don't participate in trainings or courses voluntarily. So you cannot really expect them to be super excited and motivated about what they're going to do, even if it looks cool. Even people that come to my workshops and see all of these fancy, cool-looking stuff, maybe they are not motivated, and it's my job or your job to make sure that people think it's fun and worth it to actually learn something and give them a comfortable and motivating learning experience. Moving on to the things I love about what I do. So nowadays, loads of projects are created with the intent of making flashy technology or generating lots of money. And there's nothing wrong with that. But personally, I love doing stuff that adds value to society. And layer 8 innovation actually has the power to contribute to a more digitally literate and digitally self-determined society. It also contributes to more peace and security in cyberspace. And it really empowers people and gives them more life quality, in a sense. And your work gives people control, confidence, and tools and skills to protect assets that are valuable to them, others, our society as a whole. For me, seeing purpose in what I do is very important, because when you do projects or when you study computer science, you actually experience that quite often as well. Things just look very hopeless at times, and you kind of think, oh, fuck it, I will just give up. But actually, when you have something that you think is the greater purpose behind, so then you kind of feel like maybe it's worth continuing, or maybe it's worth still trying, and that helps. Okay, another thing is that I actually can combine many interests in my project. I study computer science, but personally, I have never fully felt at home in the very techie roles. I've always been interested in psychology, marketing, working with people, bridging between tech and non-tech people. And with my project, I have found a niche where I can fully thrive. And I think for some of you, this might be true as well. The last thing is that it is open to anyone. So especially when it comes to creating educational products, you don't really have to write any code. There are card games and board games that work very well and are not created by computer scientists. And I think that's very cool about the whole thing. Well, we have reached the end of this presentation, and I simply just want to mention that we are soon going to be releasing the Be Aware Hub, on which we will be offering several products from ourselves. We have the Be Aware Cyber Dives will be also offering products from third parties, like the Switch Awareness Adventures that you can see here today. So if you think, if I inspired you to create something in this field, I'm actually very happy to put it on there and to see how it does. So if you feel like you want to start a project on layer 8 in regards to the topics you can see here, yeah, we're happy to put it on the hub. Thank you. Yeah.